Hello everyone, this is the second lecture for wireless data network. In this lecture we are going to discuss the 802.11, which is a family of a specification for wireless local area network. First we are going through some characteristics of wireless LAN and advantages and disadvantages. Some of the advantages which are quite obvious for everyone. It is very flexible within the reception area. For networks like ad hoc networks, we don't need lots of planning or any preparation. We can easily connect the devices in ad hoc networks. Minimum planning is required. We don't need to deal with wiring as much as we do it obviously in Ethernet connections. Like if you have a problem with historic buildings with many problems in the wiring, we don't need to deal with that. It is more robust against the disaster, like if something like earthquake or fire happens or users fault like pulling the plug or something happens, it's more robust against those problems. But there are some disadvantages as well. Typically, it has a lower bandwidth compared to the Ethernet or wired network. If you are looking at a different standard like 802.11g, it has up to 54 megabit per second, which is a lot lower than what a wired network can offer. But with the newer specification 802.11ac, we have up to 3200 megabit per second. If you compare that to the wired one, the gigabit one, which is 1000 megabit, it looks that it's more. But there are some problems in the wireless. In the wired network, when we say it's 1000 megabit per second, we always can guarantee that rate. But when you are looking at the wireless, interferences and other stuff can affect the communication and brings the bandwidth a bit lower. So altogether, normal we get more bandwidth from bandwidth speed from wired network compared to wireless. Also, product needs to follow national restriction if working with wireless, and it takes very long time to develop a new standard or new solution globally. An example is IMT, or International Mobile Telecommunication, for year 2000 that supports the 3G or third generation of mobile network. When we are designing the wireless LAN, there are a couple of goals we would like to follow. First of all, it should be global seamless operation. Low power is important because the wireless devices are mostly operating on batteries. So that's why you need to make sure that it doesn't consume too much power. No special permissions or licenses needed to use the LAN, basically since we are using ISM band. And robust transmission technology is required when we are planning for the wireless LAN. We need to have spontaneous cooperation, and it simplifies at the meetings, and easy to use for everyone. Basically, we need to have a simple management as well. Protection of investment in wired networks. So obviously we need to have some wired network in place, and the protection for those parts is important as well. The security is a very, very big concern in the wireless communication. So it means we need security, privacy, and safety. Security means that no one should be able to read my data. Privacy, no one should be able to collect user profiles, and safety, low radiation. The transparency concerning applications and higher layer protocols, but also location awareness is if necessary. So these are the stuff that we need to look at when we are designing a new wireless LAN. There are two types of transmission in wireless communication: infrared and radio. We just summarize some of the points here in this slide for each of them. Infrared and radio, they are both electromagnetic radiation. Infrared wavelength is longer than visible light, but is shorter than radio. It uses IR diodes or LEDs, and there are multiple reflection problems in this method with wall furniture, etc. Radio typically using the license-free ISM band and operates at 2.4 or 5 GHz. The advantages of infrared is that it's simple, cheap, available in many mobile devices. There is no license needed. None of them basically needs license. Simple shielding possible. Disadvantages are interferences by sunlight, heat sources, etc. Many things shield or absorb IR light as well, and the bandwidth is low. An example is infrared data association or IRDA. Interfaces available everywhere. This basically IRDA is creating a specification for different wireless protocols. Another example of infrared that you're definitely very familiar with is home entertainment remote control. The advantages for radio transmission is we already have some experience from wireless WAN and mobile phones that can be used. The coverage of a larger area possible because the radio can penetrate walls and furniture. Disadvantages are it's very limited license-free frequency bands and shielding more difficult compared to infrared. And it has interferences with other electrical devices. With wireless communication, we always have the interferences problem. An example of radio is all the antennas that use the radio transmission. The next concept of wireless communication is the topology or type of networks. Generally, we have two types of networks. We have infrastructure or ad hoc. In the infrastructure network, you connect the devices through the access point to the wired network. And in ad hoc network, you only use the wireless communication to connect the devices together. By now, you should have some experience setting up each of these in the laboratory. The next thing is some of the term in this type of networks. The first thing is the station, a terminal with access mechanism to the wireless medium and radio content to the access point. So basically each station has a communication, a full communication to the network. The basic service set, it's a group of stations using the same radio frequency. Then the access point, which is a station integrated into the wireless LAN and the distribution system. Then portal is a bridge to other networks, which is usually wired network. Distribution system is it interconnects the network to form one logical network or extended service set, basically connecting a couple of stations together or a couple of BSS or basic service set together. The architecture of an ad hoc is direct communication within a limited range. The range is the range that depends on the devices, what they support, and the wireless communication. Stations here again are the terminals with access mechanism to the wireless medium, and it's called the independent basic service set. It's a group of stations using the same radio frequency, basically connecting to each other through the wireless communication. In this lecture, you see many times that we are going back to the concepts that we mentioned in lecture 8. The reason is because we want to give you more detail on each concept that you already have some overview about them. If you remember, one of them was hidden terminal. When A starts to transmit to station B, from A we are transmitting data frame to B, and C sends the medium to see if the medium is clear to send the data frame as well to B. So basically A and C wants to transmit data frame to B. And since A is hidden from C or C is hidden from A, C sends that the medium is clear and doesn't receive this traffic. so start sending as well. And the collision happens at B between the data frames coming from the A and C. If you remember, one way to fix this problem was the media access control method, CSMA with collision avoidance. So carrier sends multiple access with collision avoidance. This mechanism requires each host to send a request to send signal first or data first. If they receive the clear to send, then they can send the data. So in this scenario, A sends the request to send, B sends a clear terminal for sending, and B announces A it's okay to send. At the same time, now since B is going to receive the data from A, it notifies C that my medium is busy already, so B remains quiet while A is sending the data frames. When IEEE 802.11 wireless LAN was designed, there was some of the concept they tried to cover. It's stimulated by availability of unlicensed spectrum, so ISM bands, and there are a couple of ranges available, 2.4 and 5 being the most popular one. It targeted wireless LANs at 20 megabit per second. The media access control for highest speed wireless LAN, ad-hoc and infrastructure network was included, and variety of physical layer. This is more detailed definition for BSS or basic service set and extended service set. In BSS, a group of stations that coordinate their access using a given instance of MAC are operating. Located in a basic service area, so BSS is in the service BSA, stations in BSS can communicate with each other normally through the access point and distributed network, or through the ad hoc if it's an independent one. Distinct co-located BSSs can coexist as well. For extended service set, it's formed, basically ESS is formed with multiple BSSs, which interconnected by distribution system. Each BSS is like a cell, and the stations in BSS communicate with an access point or AP. Portals are attached to DS, provides access to internet. So mostly portals are the wired network that connect to internet. So this is a diagram showing the infrastructure network. You can see these are the portals, servers or internet connections like this one. The distribution system is basically connecting the BSS to the portals and transferring the information or data. Each station is connected to access point to get connection to the distributed system and eventually portals. Distribution system. So what the distribution system does is the stations with BSS these are the stations that basically connecting the BSS directly to each other and the network to internet or portals. DS provides distribution services. They transfer the MSDUs or MAC service data unit, we talk about that later, between the access points in ESS, basically transferring the data between the access point and extended service set. They transfer MSDUs between portal and BSSs in ESS, so between each BSS as well. Transfers the MSDUs between stations in same BSS, so a station, BSS and portal, and between AP and ESS. LLC or Logical Link Control Layer is a sublayer of data link layer, the upper sublayer. The bottom sublayer was the MAC or Media Access Control. LLC sees ESS like a single BSS. So for the LLC, ASS is the same as BSS. Some of the services available in infrastructure is first to connect or associate to the system. So basically each device select an AP and establish association with that AP to send and receive frames via AP and the DS or distributed system. The reassociation services is also required for the devices while they're moving between the APs to connect from one AP when they disconnected from the other one. The disassociation service is required to terminate the association. Authentication service for establishing the identity of other stations, and privacy service to keep the contents secret or protect the content.